Okay, thank you, Gary. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our first and keynote speaker, Jim Lawless. I first met Jim, I think, well over 15 years ago, and he happens to be one of my personal and very early inspirations within my career. So I'm absolutely hugely excited to be able to invite him back and to speak to all of you today. I think you're really going to enjoy the session. So a little bit about Jim before I invite him up on stage. Jim is a record-breaking freediver. He's also voted #1 motivational speaker outside of the US. He's spoken to millions of people around the globe and is also author of the international best-selling book, Taming Tigers. What I think is a little bit different about Jim, and what really struck me, is that he insists on walking the walk, not just talking the talk. Becoming a televised jockey within 12 months of sitting on a horse, and becoming the deepest freediver in British history within 8 months is no easy feat. So, with that, I won't give it all away, but I would like to welcome Jim to the stage, and Jim, we're absolutely delighted to have you with us.
A very good morning. How are you? Good. I want to start just by, can we just, as I'm a guest, your guest, just to say thank you to the SA Partners team. What a place to be. I've never been under a Concorde before. To spend the day thinking about change and the future and how we can make it better for ourselves and our people. Should we just do a round of applause to say a thank you for that? Really, what a fantastic place to be. And I'm going to acknowledge the fact that there will be aircraft and there will be noise, and I'm just going to enjoy that immensely. I propose we all do the same. It just reminds me of innovation, where we're standing, and the industry outside, and the pace at which that is changing from biometrics at the airport through to... we're working with CETA at the moment, and CETA have got the ability now to tell a pilot when he or she is beginning to approach clear air turbulence, which they can't see, which is a significant issue. So we're right in the middle of innovation and change where we're standing, and that noise, I'm just going to use that as a reminder throughout. And we have a theme today of change makers. Now, if we're going to make change, we'll have to do something we've never done before. Would you agree? I think that's the fundamental starting place for our day. Well, I'd like to make it the starting place. If we're going to make change, we'll have to do things we've never done before. If we're leading change, we're going to be asking other people to do things they've never done before. No longer are we turning the cogs of a Kotter change program. We're doing something which is beginning to build a culture where we're consistently changing, asking people to do things we've never done before. So, if you're going to do something you've never done before, I think by definition, you're going to meet uncertainty. Would you agree? Never done it before. Don't know if it'll work. Going to meet uncertainty. If I'm a human being and I meet uncertainty, I have risk. Agreed? Risk equals an emotional response. So I just want to check in, see where we are on this. How many people, when you were 14, 15 years of age, had a mum, dad, whoever waved you off to school at this stage, whoever cared for you at this stage in your life, who would say, "Goodbye, my precious. Have a wonderful day at school today. You make sure you take a risk in that classroom today. Make sure that teacher understands there's a unique, innovative voice in the room. It's your voice. Do not let the teacher silence you today." A quick show of hands. Anybody? The only place, I get to travel with my lovely job, the only place in the world where hands go up in answer to that question, I promise you, only place, California. If a hand goes up anywhere in Europe, you say, "Oh, madam, where are you from?" So, "I'm Answer Kahneman from Santa Clara." It's the only place where the parents seem to give that encouragement. We're not trained how to meet uncertainty and risk. If you're leading change, you're asking your people with their jobs, their livelihoods, their bonus, their ability to take their kids on holiday on the line to face uncertainty and risk. So we're in a different world. So when we talk about psychological safety, we can begin to see why that's important. What I would like to do today, in my little slot to kick us off, is to talk about how we can meet uncertainty and risk, us, as the people who are leading, changing our leadership styles, adapting how we operate to inspire, connect, create change in a new world. How do we do that? But also, how do our people? Because change is cellular now in the organization. It's not mechanical. Of course, there are processes and other elements we'll put in place to create change, new platforms, whatever we're doing. But it's a connection process. We'll need all of our people to move with us if we're operating in an intellect economy, an intellect business. So we're going to be asking them to come with us. So what are we asking them to do? Let's put them at the center of the conversation this morning, what they're up against, and then we can lead appropriately around that as we build through the day to help those connections. And John's got a fantastic lead on from where I'm going to leave you today to take you into that world. So I don't think we're taught how to do this. I've got two daughters. One's aged 26 now. I was waiting for the gasp of shock, but it's not coming, is it? One's aged 26 and one aged 10. And how that happened is a long story for coffee later, and I'll tell you all about it. But it's been a wonderful adventure. Both of my girls, proud father moment, both of my daughters can tell you how to measure the area of a triangle. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. But neither of my girls have had one formal lesson at school about what will happen to their neurotransmitters, their hormones, their heart rate, their emotions, their cognitive ability, their ability to maintain eye contact when they voluntarily leave the comfort zone to make change. Not one lesson. Not one lesson. I imagine both of them will live to 110. Neither will retire until the age of 85. And each will have at least 5 careers, and we have not yet heard of the last 4. But not one lesson on creating change, on change making, what we're here to do today. So I want to bring in a framework as to how we do that. Let's get moving with that. The underpinning concept for all of change and high performance, they're closely linked, is that we take accountability. So we need to have ownership of our outputs. We need to know that we can make a difference. When we lead, change, and connect, that will become critical. But I'm not, from this point on, going to talk so much about leading, more about what we're up against, and by extension, what our people are up against. We have to acknowledge that we hold the pen, and we are writing the story of our lives, and that therefore we can write the next chapter. We have control. Why empowerment is becoming so important. We hold the pen, and we are writing the next chapter. And we are accountable for the decisions that will create that. I promised you a framework. I've given you a metaphor, so that's not good enough. How do we write this story? I think we do it through this. Our decisions, our actions, and our results. Would you agree? Every moment of every day we decide, we act, we get a result. I'm very well aware we don't control everything, and there are external forces, both helpful and not helpful. I get that. I get that everyone in the room has had appalling moments of bad luck when the dice did not fall your way. And you've also had extraordinary moments of good luck when the dice did fall your way. We all share that. But how we loved, how we cared, how we thought the thing through, how we stuck at it when anybody else would have given up, poured a glass of wine, and turned Netflix on. That is the story that you have written, the story that you sit here today and enjoy. Your decisions, your actions, your results. And if we're going to make change, we'll have to aim for a different result, which means new decisions, actions, uncertainty, risk. Decision, action, result, we write the story. You did this morning. You decided this morning what clothes to put on to your bodies. Decision. Action. You put on the clothes that we can see in the room. Result. I watched you very closely as you came in and had a coffee so that I could be honest about this. I would say for 95% of the room, good decision this morning. Good decision this morning. 5%. Don't know what you were thinking, but it's on camera. You can't escape now. It's part of your story. It's who you are today, or how you're showing today. Decision, action. I'm joking. You all look fabulous. You all look fabulous. So if we're going to make change, we aim for a different result. We're going to have to be clear on that. That will require different actions. That will require different decisions. That means uncertainty. That means risk. That means what I'm going to call the tiger will roar. The heart rate will accelerate. The tummy starts to feel a little bit different and unhappy. The voices of imposter syndrome will begin to kick off in our heads. This is our evolutionary protection mechanism at work. We are not descended from Harry, who went up to the cave with curiosity and thought maybe this will be a good place to live and never came out. We're descended from John or Sally, who ran away from the cave and sat around the campfire and told everybody how that cave is very dangerous. And that's how we come to be here. It's our evolutionary superpower. And yet, in an age of change, we're going to have to be able to override this emotional impulse. So being able to tame this tiger becomes critical to making change. Understanding that you may have 1,000 people with a roaring tiger with their jobs on the line who've been taught that authority figures judge me, criticize me, and potentially fire me if I make errors. They're not dashing into uncertainty for you. We're going to have to build connection, purpose, all of the things that you introduced there at the beginning, Gary, in order to support them to make those change. A new and different high-performing culture. And speaking of high performance, if we have a high performance mindset, we will evaluate consistently. So this becomes a dare, loop, decide, act, result. How did that go? In the mirror, from other people, with honesty. Okay, I made some errors there. I did that well. We double down on that. We change this. We go again. We learn. We're seeking with humility. So, let's then begin to build a story. It exists in a book, as Megan very kindly said in that lovely introduction, for which thank you. You would expect that. So all I'll say is that the middle one is Ukraine, and it's just a joy. In terms of taking risk and going out there, you never know when you sit down to write a book that it's going to end up in the hands of people in the front line of our current border, of Europe and democracy. So that's been a delight. And it exists with clients around the world. My job is not doing crazy things, although I have done a couple. It's to support organizations to create cultural change and high-performing leadership. But if we're going to connect, you want to know who I am. So I did take a bet to become a jockey in 12 months. It was from a client. He was pushing back a little bit with some humor in front of his team. I took the bet. It was a bet to become a jockey within a year in my first televised race. For a pound bet, which you must remember was pre-Brexit. A pound pre-Brexit. I mean, it had a value on the planet. And so I took the bet, went home very excited, went to bed stressed. Went home excited because I thought I could have taken a hard bet, a bet to return a tennis ball to Federer. Can you imagine? No, I've got a sitting down sport, horse riding. It's a sitting down sport. How hard can a sitting down sport be? Which shows you what I knew about horses. I went to a big South London comprehensive school. We had lots of scary things in my 1980s comp, I must admit, a few good things, but I never found the riding stables at my school, so I knew nothing. I went home, I Googled, I learned that a jockey will usually start a race, start learning how to ride horses, somewhere between the age of 3 months and 6 months. And the change I've got to make is starting at 36 years old at this stage, so that's not a good sign. I Googled some more. I checked out the weight. A jockey shows up at the racecourse for a weight on the flat somewhere between 7.5 and 9 stone. Well, I did not know what I weighed at this stage in my life. I wasn't interested. I was more interested in the next pizza or pint. So I dusted off an old set of scales and I got on. It was bad. I thought, it's all right. I've got this. I got off the scales. I removed all of my clothes. I got back on the scales and the flipping thing didn't move, right? Nothing at all. So I'm 12, I've got to be 9, which means that 25% of me has got to find a new home. And I've got no idea how you do that. Now, some of you thinking, oh, he thinks he's clever, he became a jockey, he's going to tell us all about it. I don't think it's clever. Many more important things in my life with elderly parents or young children than riding in a horse race. And the same for each and every one of you here. I will bring it into the room, but not because it's clever. I'm bringing it into the room because I genuinely believed I had no business making that change. I had no business showing up on the other side of the race barriers one day dressed in silk. I was one of the guys who was supposed to be this side with a beer and a hot dog. I was not supposed to be on the other side dressed in silk on a horse. What is it you think you have no business showing up to do? What is the ambitious level of change that you couldn't drive through your organization? What is it as leaders now, looking at the people that you're going to be asking to come with you on a journey, what is it they think they've got no business showing up to do? What is it the organization has trained them they've got no business showing up to do? And now you're going to try and untrain that emotional response that says there's danger if I do this. You're going to start saying, it's exciting if we do this. Come with me. And how will you take them through that process? What story will you tell to connect them to that? And I'd like you to keep that in mind as we work through my presentation, please. So, because it gives us some structure for you in your brains. Change always starts with an event. You've all seen a movie. Would you agree that they're roughly the same? They're always kind of the same? I mean, I don't just mean in a Marvel sense, they're really the same, but you always meet a person in their world. And then a thing happens, and they have to go on a journey. And they check rom-com or Luke Skywalker, it doesn't matter. Your guardian gets killed by the stormtroopers and you go off on the Millennium Falcon and you go on your growing up journey, your rite of passage. Or you're a rom-com, you're a boy, you meet a girl, you've got to spend 90 minutes becoming a better boy so the girl might date you by the end of it, right? We're always meeting the person, a thing happens, then they go on a journey. Change starts with an event. And on that journey, they've got to meet new friends. They've got to do things they didn't think they could do. They've got to enter a new world, a new environment, where they don't know how to cope. They're literally going outside of that comfort zone into a new world. It always starts with an event, and you don't have a script writer. So we either wait for the event, or we create it, or in the words of our event today, we make the change. And that means voluntarily, because it's right, we walk off the edge of the comfort zone and into the unknown. And that is an emotional challenge. We all want to wait for the event. But I'm going to suggest that you need to create the event. Let me bring this into horse racing. So I got off the scales, and I immediately went on a diet. I threw away all the sweeties in my home, to the disgust of my family. I booked a horse riding lesson with a nice lady at the local riding school. And I did those two things. I was in the pub on the following Friday having a pie and a pint, because we all know calories can't get you on a Friday. I'm tucking into my dinner. Careful, it's not Friday, it's Tuesday. The pastries count today. My friend said, what have you done that's bold? I said, I've been for a horse riding lesson. I've been on a diet this week. They said, that's not bold. I said, I promise you it was bold. I said, it's not. Most of Europe will go on a diet this year. Most 7-year-old kids have had a pony ride. This is not bold. What you need to do is ring up racehorse trainers, the people who make the industry happen. Ask them. So I did. I didn't want to do that. Ring up the people on the television. Do you? There's your bold act, to make change. Ring them in the break. Don't wait till you're ready. There's no time. Ring them in the break. Tiger, I'll do it later. I ring them. They all say, no, you can't be a jockey. I said, why? You're too old. You're overweight. Let me tell you, racehorse trainers don't say you're overweight, I'll be honest. They haven't been on any DEI training. They just say, you're fat. They tell it like it is. I said, oh. And let's face it, you can't ride a horse, my friend. Okay. Let's stop there for a moment. Remember Sally and Harry, who came back from the cave and told the story about how the cave wasn't safe? We spread the stories. Stories are critical. They're telling me the story. They're not telling me the reality. You're too old to ride a horse. At 36, you buying that? I've seen a Clint Eastwood movie. That guy's over 36 years old. He's fast on a horse. I don't see age as the barrier. Second, the horse is doing the hard work. Second, you're overweight. Well, barring a medical condition, which, spoiler alert, I don't have, I can vary my weight. Thirdly, you can't ride a horse. Skill acquisition, I'm not buying that. Before we invented those things and these things, we were all traveling around on a pony. I'm quite sure I can learn how to do that. So they're only telling me the story. But it sounds convincing from an expert, doesn't it? It sounds convincing. I asked my friends for three of the boldest thing I could do. They said, ring three of the most senior people in all of the industry, ask them for help. I did not want to do that. You might think, having heard Megan's lovely introduction, given that you're speaking to all these people all over the world, Jim, you're obviously very famous, it's easy for you to ring them up. Of course they're going to want to work with you. So I just want to bin that idea, because I have been here all morning and you have been charming. Everybody I met has been charming, but not one person, not one. Out of all of these people, not one of you has asked me for a selfie. So I'm not going to buy the he's so famous it works for him. I ring them up. They don't know who I am. They don't care who I am. And I ask them for help. Guess what? They all offered me help. Completely different at the top. Very, very surprising to me. I was very nervous ringing them up. This is not where I hang out, especially not at this stage in my life. I ring them up. They all offer me help. And within 48 hours, I'm having dinner with the most successful female jump jockey that England has ever produced. Her name is G. Armitage, the first woman to ride a winner at our great Cheltenham Festival, one of the first to ride in the Grand National. At the end of dinner, this woman, who's now PA to somebody called A.P. McCoy. I'd never heard of A.P. McCoy, but I should have done my homework. At the end of dinner, she put her hand out. She said, okay, we're going to do it. We start on Saturday. If you do what you're told for the next year, I promise you, I'll have you on the racecourse televised in a year as a jockey. Yeah? If I touch her hand, I'm on the Millennium Falcon, right? I'm Dorothy. I've just landed in Oz and I'm going up the yellow brick road. It's the only way home. Everything's going to change immediately I touch the woman's hand. Change starts with an event, not a meeting. Are you going to create the event? Are you going to give your people space and risk tolerance to create the event? Or do you want to keep it all nice and certain and safe and keep planning something on a Gantt chart, which has its place, by the way? But at some stage, we're going to have to invite people to step off the edge of a precipice and see if they can fly. We might need training in place before we do that. We need the story in place. We need to gather everybody into the same direction. There's a lot of structure that if we were working on a change program together, we'd go through with our partners in the room before we would do this. But you're going to have to invite them to create change with an event. And when they do that, we're up against an emotional barrier, which is why the storytelling, which is why the process, which is why the credible belief that we can do this, the credible case that we put to them that we can make this leap, becomes so incredibly important, because that emotional response will come. Now, can anybody see oh no, let's do this instead. So I took a freediving record. Freediving is beautiful. If you've only experienced it through your television set on a Netflix documentary, you might think it's about crazy people with a death wish. That's because documentary makers have an agenda, and because the character in person that they decided to focus on for their documentary is somebody who wants to be an influencer and a hero and make money on sponsorship quickly, and there she broke one of the two great rules of freediving and caused death and mayhem as she did so. The two great rules of freediving are, one, you don't rush it, you inch your limits forward, and two, you follow process. Now, if you're going to hugely, exponentially test your limits with other people supporting you, you might just create a problem. Freediving is a meditation. The main training for freediving is yoga. It's beautiful. At 100 meters under the ocean, I'm under 11 times the Earth's atmospheric pressure, meaning that I'm being hugged, literally held, squeezed by my planet. It's incredible. 11 times the Earth's atmospheric pressure, to give you a reference point, is 33 times the pressure that our friends up there are experiencing coming down from 33,000 feet to touchdown here in Manchester this morning. 33 times that pressure change. And I'm not doing it in 60 seconds in a pressurized tube. In 30 minutes in a pressurized tube. I'm doing it in 60 seconds wearing a wetsuit. It's extraordinary. Now, there are three things I need to do as a freediver. One, I need to manage my emotional state, which makes it a good place for me to go and test my theories before I come here. I have to keep my mind in my prefrontal cortex and not in what we used to call our limbic system, where all my amygdala and all that stuff, my emotions hang out. I've got to keep it intellectual. I've got to override my feelings at all times, because my feelings in the most hostile environment we have on the planet are very likely to tell me to run home. I don't talk to my feelings, I close them. This is an intellectual and process-driven exercise where my feelings have no place, which can upset some people in the 21st century, where we talk about our emotions a lot more, which is a beautiful thing, by the way. But not here. I need to override them. 2, I need to be able to manage the pressure, skill acquisition. 3, we can all acquire new skills. 3, I need to hold my breath. We'll return to that. So people often say, oh, that tiger you speak about must get loud at 100 meters under the ocean. But as you know, it's silent. My heart rate's at 35, 38 beats per minute. It's not at 100 beats having a little moment. So my tiger does roar, but not in the water. My tiger roared at 2 points. And if you've ever created change, been a change maker, would you relate to these 2 points? Point number 1, the tiger roars when I tell my friends, my family, my colleagues, my clients, that in 8 months I will be Britain's deepest freediver. And they look at me a bit quizzically and they say, we never knew you could freedive. And I reply, I can't yet. And they look at you with that little Muppet kind of look in their eyes. And secondly, when I look at my schedule, because my calendar's really busy. I'm a dad, I've got a house, which means I mow grass and I paint walls. I've got a business to run, which means I'm a tax collector, let alone having to be in charge of revenue and sales and the P&L and my subject matter. We could go on. There is no space in my calendar to create change. So if we're going to be change makers, we will need new actions, right? We agreed that. Decision, action for a new result. And that means we'll need to put new things in the calendar, and the calendar's full, which means that the new thing will eventually die unless we can remove things from the calendar. This is the crux at CEO level coaching to deliver change, I promise you, in my experience. What are you, madam, going to take out of your calendar to put in all this wonderful connection, storytelling, and inspiration that you're going to put in order to help people to create new roles for themselves across the organization? And at that moment, we open the calendar and there is no space for that stuff. And that's not because she doesn't understand the role. There's no space because there are 1,000 demands. So taking things out of the calendar, to me, is the most important skill in making change. I don't know if you've read all the literature from Harvard, but they don't go there. They're intent on making it complex. Having a 4x4. There's a place, a 2x2, there's a place for all of that stuff. Fundamentally, from CEO down, we're going to put new things in the calendar. Working with a new pharmaceutical product within Novartis, they're going to have to take out visits to sell the old product, and they're going to have to put in visits to sell the new product, even though they've never sold it before, and they don't know if they can do it. Change happens in the calendar, and when you begin to change your calendar, that tiger will begin to roar. Because the calendar is our daily activity that's feeding the family, that's keeping us safe. We love the calendar. Can anybody see a Coke can? A red Coke can. Can I ask you to put your hands up if you can see a red Coke can? Okay. Keep your hands up if you can see a red Coke can. Anybody got a red Coke can? Keep your hands up if you can see a red Coke. Any red on that screen? We go one more. There is no red on the screen. There was never any red on the screen, but oh, doesn't that look red? You're made of stardust. You're the most advanced creature in the known universe. You're extraordinary. And one of your superpowers is to predict the future. It's what you do. All of the neuroscientists are agreed now. The primary purpose of this is to predict, to create emotions, then to help guide your behavior in the situation you have predicted. This meeting's going to be a tricky one. This meeting's going to be how do you know? But away we go. We walk into the tricky one. Or this guy's a bit awkward. No, I don't like meeting with this guy. He's always a stick in the mud. We predict. So we create our emotions to guide our behavior in our predicted future. When John went into that cave, he never came out. Run away from the cave. It's that basic. We predict a situation based on your AI. We're based on past experience. So we have a set of rules about how the world works. And you're going to invite your people to make change. You might want to invite your executive team to make change. That means risk and uncertainty and breaking the rules that non-consciously guide them. About the regulator, about tolerance, about what will happen if I take the hands off the reins a little bit and let people be actually empowered. Empowered, this buzzword we use, means giving somebody else decision-making authority. It's terrifying. If you want to really think about empowerment, I would recommend to you, despite the fact we have issues with our American allies at the moment, a book called Jim Mattis's book called Call Sign Chaos. When you're running the Marines in Afghanistan, and the only way, whether or not you have any allegiance with that conflict, I don't think he did, if I read between the lines, in Iraq and Afghanistan. Nonetheless, he was sent there to conduct it. And when you're running the Marines, the Marine Corps in those environments, your requirement to give away decision-making and what you do in advance to do that well it's extraordinary throughout this book. So we're giving away decision-making authority. That's what we're asking people to do. So we're challenging these rules. We're going to have to be aware of them, able to identify them, and then override them. What are we really afraid of here? What's driving the fear response? Let me give you one more example of this, then we'll move on. Can you imagine, please, an 81-year-old man in your head? Please don't make that a family member. That will be way too close to home. A stereotypical, generic 81-year-old man in your head. And when you've got that 81-year-old man in your head, we'll run an experiment. You see, I'm mid-50s now, so 80 is out there. I mean, it's not imminent, but it's out there in a way that it wasn't 20 years ago. So I went to America last year to watch an 81-year-old man, to educate myself on what an 81-year-old man could be. I took my 10-year-old daughter so she too could be educated. So here's what I saw. So bear in mind your vision of an 81-year-old man, and now let's look at what I saw in the United States. Now, you might say, yeah, but he's done so much drugs and alcohol, he has preserved himself. I get that a lot. But I've got to say, I'm of an age where I've met a few guys who've not got off the drug and alcohol route. They're not looking quite that good, I've got to tell you, mid-50s. So I'm not sure that that's the answer. I just love, it's breaking all the rules. So we predict what we'll become. Now, you might say, but Jagger didn't predict that. He just became it. It's genetics. So I've done a bit of research. Here's Jagger talking about being an old man, being a 60-year-old on an interview when he was a 20-something-year-old.
Can you picture yourself at the age 60 doing what you do now?
Yeah, easily, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Going on stage with a cane and moving the way you did.
We predict our future based on rules. We can consciously manipulate those rules. That doesn't mean we're predicting nonsense. It means that what our predictions to begin with were not accurate. Oh, he's trouble, he'll be difficult. And then we watch someone else come in and manage him beautifully, and it works fine. You go, oh, I couldn't do that. So we predict and then we deliver. What are the rules that you'll need to work to in order to make change. How many people have voices in their heads? Anybody? I'm in. Anyone else? All right. So thank you for your honesty. That's a lot of great hands. For those of you whose hands are down, the voice I'm interested in is the one that you just had a little chat with in your head. They're going, no, I think I'm all right. I don't think well, that is a bit weird, though. Who am I talking to? Right? That's the voice. Anybody ever given a presentation to a group at work, at college, at a wedding? Come on, all of us, right? When you give a presentation to a group, do you have a little voice in your head saying, oh yeah, you are hot stuff today. They can't get enough of you. Or do you have a little voice saying, oh no, she's on a phone in the third row and he just yawned, oh dear. Like, I always have that voice. It's always giving me a negative commentary. When you leave the comfort zone, the voice is going to go nuts. The All Black rugby team, the most high-performing, sustainably high-performing culture we know of on the planet, other perhaps than the Rolling Stones. Like, in all seriousness, is that Britain's longest-serving and most successful unicorn, billion-dollar company CEO that we just watched? I'd argue a strong case for saying he is, but let's move on from that. When we create change, the voices will tell us to pull back into the comfort zone. The All Blacks have a vocabulary to be able to identify you on the pitch as having left, the voice has taken over. You're emotional and aggressive. You're not thinking tactically with 15 other men to deliver the result. And they can call you out on that, on the pitch. And your job is to respond and say, thank you, I'm back. The voices, we have to control them. They're there at the edge of the comfort zone. If we're going to make change, we can't do it without understanding this voice. So, let's bring it alive. In horse racing, if you want to be a jockey, one day you'll have to go into the jockey's changing room. So I walked into the changing room, and I had a voice in my head, and it was saying, you have no right to be in this room. And I walked in the door, and there were real jockeys in there. Ryan Moore is in there. Frankie Dettori's in there. And they're looking at me as if to say, you have no right to walk into this room. And the voice is getting louder. And then I've got to get changed into silk. Silk in the Midlands, not far from here. In the winter, November in England. It's a bad fashion choice. I mean, for me, I think it's a bad fashion choice any day. But in the Midlands, in the winter, to do a sport, bad fashion choice. I get dressed in silk. It gets worse. Every jockey, not just me, all jockeys, well, boys, I don't know about the girls, boy jockeys, don't wear underwear. And it's not just a me thing, all of them. And the reason is that underwear weighs too much. And if you've got a choice between a pair of Marks and Spencer's Finest or breakfast on the jockey diet, I promise you, breakfast. So now, obviously, if you're going to be out in public doing this on the television, wearing silk trousers without any pants on, you need something for a little bit of security as you're doing it. So all jockeys, boy jockeys, not just me, are wearing pantyhose, hosiery, tights underneath their silks, meaning that the jockey's changing room is pretty much the most bizarre visual experience you are ever going to have. Lots of very little guys, very skinny, wearing tights, reading the Racing Post like it's a completely ordinary day at the office. And I thought we could play. I wouldn't normally do this, but this was a special for Megan, who said, should we do the thing? And I said, all right, we'll do the thing. So I get dressed. And Megan's not going to do the thing, don't worry. Well, unless you want to. So it's a definite, it's a hard no, isn't it? So the first thing you've got to do is get dressed. Then I've got to leave and walk out through the door, and I've got a voice in my head. The man comes in, jockeys for the next, mount up for the next. That's all you get. You've got to leave and mount up. I don't want to go and mount up for the next. I've got a voice saying, you've got no right to go and mount up for the next. What you need to do is put some clothes on, put some pants on, and get out through the fire escape. And I'm listening. But whether I have the right to walk out of that door isn't dictated by voices in my head, is it? We'll come back to that. But I'm going to invite you to meet the voices in your head immediately so that we can bring this alive. So first thing you got to do is get down to the start of the race. Now, the trainer of the horse will tell you how to ride the horse in that race. My guy said, get to the front as fast as you can on this horse. And then when you're at the front, all you have to do is make sure that when you arrive at the finish line, you're still there. Okay. Keeping it easy for the new guy, right? So I get out the stalls. First of all, they lock you up in a coffin-shaped steel cage with half a ton of excited muscle. The most dangerous part of a horse race is the starting stalls, not the fast part. And so you're in this environment, and you're keeping the horse nice and calm. And I'm waiting. Now, what they don't do at the start of a horse race is they don't say, because it is genuinely a dangerous environment. For the jockeys, not the horses, they're fine. And so they're not going to say, are you ready? Are you steady? You're not going to get that. All you're going to get is, jockeys! And you're off. So you're waiting for that noise, sitting in the stalls, suddenly it comes, you're off. And I got to the front, part one, accomplished. I'm coming into the home straight, I'm still in the lead. And suddenly it changes, you begin to hear the noise of the commentator, you begin to hear the roar of the crowd. I mean, I didn't know this, I'd never done it before. I'm coming up into the home straight, and then other people start coming along beside me. I'm sorry about the view I'm presenting to you over here. Other people start coming along, and I've got to change gears. So I thought I'd teach you today how you can accelerate and change gears on a thoroughbred. So if you all stand up, noticing the voice in your head saying, oh, I didn't sign up for this. Very good. Or not, as the case may be. Okay, feet about shoulder width apart on the floor. Nice. Toes in. Good. Right, this is the hard part. You've got to stick this out and you've got to bring this down like that, right? Yeah, look at that. If you're feeling a bit exposed, try doing it on the telly without your pants and see how you feel. Right, now we're just going to start moving up and down with the horse, going up and down with the horse. Come on at the back, you've got this. Now we're going to get accelerated. First thing to change gear, just get down a little bit lower, get like you mean it now. Now start pushing the horse's head, just giving a bit of encouragement, niggling me along in front. Very good work at the front. Going on, very nice. No, I'm going to take one hand off. We're going to wave it in front a bit, wave it behind a bit. Oh, come on, you're amazing. Look at that. Whoa. Thank you very much. Take a seat. You were great. Normally you get a few people looking at you like, no, I'm not doing that. You were absolutely in it. Thank you so much. The view from the front was just energy and smiles and a sea of people going. What was the view like? Anybody from the back there? Ailsa, are your thumbs up there? You're giving us a thumbs up. Whether I have the right to walk out of this door isn't dictated by voices in my head, is it? If I think it is, I need medical support urgently. Whether I have the right to walk out of the door is not dictated by how I feel. Of course I'm going to feel anxiety. That's the human response to change. The only way to override anxiety, unless it is a disorder, is to take action to catch up with how the world has moved, which you're behind. The thing that is making you anxious. The cure for anxiety is action, unless it's a disorder. Whether I have the right to walk out of that door is a position on the flow chart, not an emotion. It's intellectual, not emotional. We've taken the decision that this is the change we will make. Now it is the moment to walk across the threshold into a world that I don't know, that is full of risk, where it could go wrong. We took that decision intellectually 12 months ago. This is not an emotional moment. It has to be an intellectual moment. Therefore, I have to be able to manage the voices in my head and take that step, or I cannot make change. And I think this is what we're missing when we're helping our people and supporting them now to deliver that change. Very often, not always. Is how are we supporting them to have the emotional intelligence to override the emotions rather than accepting that I'm now in a grief stage of a change curve. Which, frankly, unless you're making mass redundancies, ain't even in the discussion. But that's catch me at coffee if you want to argue the point, or we can argue in Q&A in a moment. And I'm happy to hear any pushback on anything. So imposter syndrome, I'm going to suggest to you, is just change's entry ticket. We need to make sure we're ready, we've earned the right, and I can look through, I can sit in that room, in that changing room, and I can think, have I earned the right to walk through that door or not? Because if not, I should have no business going out there. Nobody has any business getting into an A380 over there and flying it without having done the appropriate work and got their ticket. No business. But if I've done that work, it's time to put my big boy pants on and walk through the door. With my friends, because I've earned the right to do it. With my supporters, standing on the touchline, looking after me. What have you earned the right to go do next, ladies and gentlemen? What have you earned the right to go do next? And if you haven't, what do you need to do to earn it? And that tiger will roar. Very quickly on this one, the tools are all around us. We can find help at the end of every phone, any phone. The people who helped me most to make change were random people I called G. Armitage. I'd never even heard of G. Armitage. I should have done. The woman's a legend. And she changed my life. She changed my life expectancy. I didn't know I could be fit and healthy and not overweight and smoking. She helped me see I could get fit because school did not teach me that. And I didn't discover it. But you've got to call and ask for the help. And that means showing up a little bit naked and vulnerable. But that's how we can accelerate the change, by getting others in to support us, fill in the gaps that we've got. The tiger will roar for us when we do that. If you're going to make change, you're going to meet these guys and girls. They'll be there around the coffee machines. So let's take it and help our change champions in our organizations to take that as a badge of honor. Listen to the feedback. This is not arrogance. Listen, tune in intellectually, not emotionally, and hear everything they say, but be able to step back and carry on. Because their voice is loud and it's emotionally hard. So if we're going to make change, we're going to get somebody who's not in the arena, who's in the grandstand, telling us how we should do it differently. Invite them into the arena. Come do it with me. Show me how you do it. So we just need to be aware that change makes you visible. If you're making change with your organization, leading change, you're asking them to be visible in a community. And that means they're vulnerable. And that's fine. That's change. But we're going to have to help them be ready for that. Support them to know that that's going to come. Be there when they make a mistake with a life ring to throw them, not a clipboard to mark their homework, in order to support them through that vulnerability, because that tiger will roar. I rang up my freedive instructor. I said, how long do I have to hold my breath for? He said, I need you, he's Italian, beautiful accent. I need you to have a 5-minute breath, Jim. 5 minutes. So I went up to my bed. I thought 5 minutes sounds like a long time. But maybe I have a hidden talent for holding my breath. So I lay down, I held my breath. I started my stopwatch, and when I thought I was going to die, I breathed. I looked at my watch, bless you, and I discovered that I don't have a hidden talent for holding my breath. My stopwatch says 40 seconds, and I've got to get 5 minutes. Well, this is not a good start. I rang him up. I said, I've got a problem. I'm the wrong guy. I can't do it. I can only do 40 seconds. He said, what are you talking about? Of course you can only do 40 seconds. We haven't started training. Do you have a yoga mat? I said, of course I don't have a yoga mat. Buy a yoga mat. You'll need a yoga mat. Then you need to get up at 5 o'clock every morning and do exactly what I tell you before the kids get up, before the emails start, on your yoga mat. And I promise you that if you do that, then in 8 months, which was our deadline, you will have a 5-minute breath hold. But he was wrong. Because in 5 months, I had a 5-minute breath hold. And there's nothing different about me. If you wanted a 5-minute breath hold, you could show up on your yoga mat at 5 a.m. and do that too. Now, why was this challenging? A, was it challenging because I don't like getting up at 5? No, I'm quite a disciplined man. I can go to bed, I can get up. I'm up at 5, no problem. Was it challenging because what he gave me to do on the yoga mat was very difficult? No, it was staged, it was gradual. I could just took a little bite extra every day. So why was it challenging? Because it was challenging. The challenge, when I get up at 5, is that I have a whole array of urgent things to do. The dishwasher needs to be emptied. The laundry needs to be put on. The kids will be up soon. We could get the breakfast made. I've got a proposal to polish off that's going to pay the mortgage. Maybe I should just finish that one off and get it off before things get really busy in the day. No, you're going to get on a yoga mat. Oh, am I? Yet I doubt my book would have any impact on the front line in Ukraine without me getting on the yoga mat. So creating change means trusting the process that we're implementing today is going to deliver outcomes in a year's time. Even when all of our emotions say, bin that, you're behind on your proposal. I say, no, but I'm creating a new world in which I'm Britain's deepest freediver, and I've had those amazing experiences, and I can tell my children about them. I'm creating that world. No, you've got to get the washing up done. So being able to take those decisions when the emotions are live is how we make change over the long term. And you're going to be asking others to come with you, the exec team to come with you, to trust you in that time scale. So how do we define the habits, define the basics, and then execute them brilliantly with despite the tiger's roar, defines those who build with great respect. I know we shouldn't talk about him anymore, a SpaceX in 20 years, as opposed to those who are not evolving NASA at the same pace. Or a Boeing, since we're here. And today's the day when SpaceX will rescue the stranded Boeing astronauts, despite the budget. I write on this topic every week, or every Sunday morning. If you would like to engage in our community, it would be an enormous joy to have you join. I write on this topic and how we support others through our coaching and our leadership to deliver change, and also on high-performing presenting, because over the years people have asked me, how can I present differently? So storytelling and presentations to create an impact with your group, to generate emotion, change perspectives, deliver action is the other topic that comes up in my newsletters. And let us close then, before a brief Q&A, by thinking about commitment. So when we leave the comfort zone, everything drives us back. It's got a gravitational pull. We're designed emotionally to be driven back. It's our evolutionary superpower. So we need to override that to cross the discomfort zone and arrive at a new place. And to talk about that, I'd like to invite you to come freediving with me. But this time, feel free to hold your breath. If you wish, you don't have to. Take a deep, ugly yoga, pranayama, not a cool, chesty breath. Big, deep breath. And then if you wish, hold your breath and come with me. This video is in real time. So the dive is 2 minutes 7. I had 2 attempts. I tried it the day before. I was down for 3 minutes 40. Some things went wrong. So like a pilot, I've got a checklist. And on that checklist is a decision, a very conscious decision, which is that I'm now going to 100 meters. I'm committing to it. That's where we're going. If there's a problem, we bin that, we come home. This is not about macho dedication to the goal above all else, because I love my life. I adore my 2 girls. There is no way I'm going to sacrifice that for a free dive. But if everything's going well, I must commit to making the change. I cannot start this process committing to going to 80%, and when I get there, I'll review it and see how we're feeling. At 80% of this journey, I'm under 9 times the Earth's atmospheric pressure, meaning my lungs have collapsed down to the size of my clenched fist, about the size of an apple. That's completely natural, completely healthy. You and I are built like dolphins. We are incredible. Now that compression means that my diaphragm, the muscle that separates my belly from my chest, is sucked up into the chest cavity like the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral. And that means that my belly will be pulled in by the vacuum. So that at 80, 90 meters under the ocean, you look spectacular. If you could stay like this, we'd all be freediving at the weekend, I promise you. But sadly, when you come to the surface, you're back. I have to commit to that. I have to know it's coming. I have to know why I'm doing it. I have to know I've earned the right to execute the task. I have to know my friends are around me. Otherwise, I cannot possibly come back and deliver on my objective. And I think it's the same for all of us in the room. If we're going to make change, we have to commit to the outcome and then bravely put everything in place like professionals before we leave the comfort zone. But then we go. And we lead our people on this most spectacular journey because, ladies and gentlemen, you hold the pen and you are writing the stories of your lives and the lives of many others through those whom you touch, whom you lead, whom you inspire, whom you connect with, whom you make change with. So what is the chapter that you will write next? Thank you very much for your hospitality. Thank you for your attention so early in the morning.